From shores to shores, across oceans and islands, through strength and survival, a new culture was born. The Creole culture.
Welcome to Candid Conversations.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joshua.
How do you say hello in your language?
We greet, especially in Europe, we always greet each other with good morning, like Igaro, Ikasan, so very
Garo?
much. Igaro.
How you spell it?
Ekaro, so Igaro.
Ikaro. So Ikaro, and I am originally from Haiti, and today we have a segment about the emerging leaders. Joshua is a young adult, and he is he's from the U.S. and his mother is from Nigeria. So what better way to have a candid conversation, because we're going to do the Candid Creole from now on, as I explained before, from Africa to wherever the boat took the colonizers to around the world. And my ancestors ended up in Haiti. His ancestors was left in Nigeria. However, life is what it is. So today we're going to have a conversation with Joshua about his family in Nigeria, and we're going to learn some things from him about Nigeria as well. What better place to start than with the motherland, Africa? Welcome, Joshua.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's great to have you. So what can you tell me? Tell us a little bit about your background quickly. I know you were born in the U.S., so tell us about that.
Yeah, so especially in my family, my mother's side, born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. They grew up there ever since they were kids. They were around. My grandfather, who nurtured them and took care of them for a long period of time. In Nigeria, they have two sorts of languages, or two sorts of clans. We would say, Yoruba and Igbo. And my family came from the Yoruba side, and so with that, they had a lot of different cultural things that they were doing that was differently. But the main thing that always came from Nigeria was the family side, the tradition. The traditional values were the biggest thing that we carry and nurture in ourselves. My mother, when she came into America, she came when she was 13.
Oh, wow.
And so she was raised in Nigeria for those 13 years. And then when she had me, I was born in the U.S. But it was funny because she had taken me to Nigeria when I was a baby. Okay. So I was able to experience it for the first time, but I don't really have.
You don't remember much. And so that was the only time you've been?
Yes, but
okay.
I'm planning to go again this December.
You're going very soon?
Yes.
That's going to be in December?
Yep.
How long will you be there for?
I'm planning to be there for a full month.
Oh, nice.
Just embracing my culture.
That's nice. And you have many family members you have not met yet.
Yes,
obviously. Exactly. So that's going to be fun.
Thank
so you. Now, what did you learn from your mother about Africa, about Nigeria?
Yeah, just Nigeria being the motherland, and Africa being the homeland.
Yes.
I learned a big amount of what it meant to especially for your elders when it came to growing up. We grow a lot in respect, and we nurture that because our elders were the ones who took care of us and they looked after us. Especially in Nigeria when you have when the kids are behind the mothers. Culturally and traditionally when the babies,
they carry the
babies.
Yeah.
So when I was a baby, my mom would go all the time. So I was always behind her because it was just like a mother nurturing her son.
Okay.
And my mother taught me, especially with Nigeria, how especially when you're in the country, it's very religion too is a big aspect in that country. We really believe in the community and the churches and being with God as much as we can. Especially right now, my uncle, they own their own church there too.
So my uncle is a pastor.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did that that's the same religion they practice in Nigeria as well?
Yeah.
So that's Christianity.
Christianity.
Okay.
Yeah. Very big.
So where did that influence come from?
Especially from the Christianity, the influence came from that family tradition, especially with Nigeria as they say it's like a third world country, but as as a way for, as it was growing up financially, and the resources were getting more. A lot of families were going to their religion to be able to like find belief, find truth in themselves and their family.
Yes.
And so community built on that, because the religion side was just so important for all of us, especially connected to my mother. As she was moving to like America, with her sisters, only being with her sisters, they had their bond through their religion and through Christianity, and that really created that stronghold with them, and that's what they instilled in us.
So did they already have family in the US when they moved? Because usually, like when, for example, me, when I moved from Haiti to the US, I moved where I had family.
Exactly.
So because one always pulled the other, and so was that the same for your mom and her siblings?
My mom and my siblings got very lucky because my uncle, who is also Joshua, so kind of my great uncle.
And Joshua is in the Bible. Yes,
David,
that's a powerful name.
Thank you. All my mother named all of us biblical names. Joshua, Moses, Samuel, Daniel.
Your siblings.
All my siblings.
Yes. So it's Joshua, Samuel, Daniel, and you have a fourth one.
Joseph. Yeah.
Nice.
And so my uncle Joshua, he moved to America very early, and so he had resided in Maryland, and so that's where my mother and all of my aunts, they had moved and stayed with him. So as they were growing older and going to school, they were able to reside with him. But I'm very lucky that happened. I'm very grateful for my uncle, because he was able to nurture and help them, especially coming to a new country.
Nice. So now I appreciate that's your mother's story. So what's your story? I know
story,
you are an emerging leader. You are graduating in a few weeks.
Oh, in a few days, actually.
In a few days. Okay, so tell me about your story and how did you start with music? Because your degree is
Master's in Music Performance.
Master's in Music Performance. Nice. So what's the influence? So tell me your story.
Yeah. Well, especially growing up as a kid, my mother and my family, like they were big on like academics, were also just big on us just being respectful people. So we were trained and disciplined to always be respectful, show gratitude whenever we could, and also just whenever we were doing something, just give 100% to everything we did. So when I was growing as a kid, I loved doing math, I loved reading. I loved playing too, loved playing and exercising too, because that was we were big sports fans, we loved doing that.
Nice.
But when I was a kid, I was always influenced by music, traditional, Yoruba, Afrobeat, those.
What's your favorite?
I love Afrobeats. My favorite genre of music is will connect. Well, it's more so Afrobeat, because that's my traditional, hip hop, classical, and jazz. Those are my four where I buy to.
And you play?
I play classical and jazz.
And jazz. Okay.
Yeah. And so when I was growing up and I was a kid, I first wanted to start on the saxophone. I wanted to start on saxophone because
I love the saxophone so much. My son plays, as you know, JC plays as well. My first son. So yeah, go ahead.
And saxophone, because I listen to it, and I listen to it in the church too. Because the church that was the gospel. And so I when I wanted to play it, the school didn't have any more saxophones I could get. So they were like, hey, but we need an extra flutist if you would love to play flute. And I was like, I love the music. I've been listening to it for so long, and I wanted to know more about it. And so when I was able to get it and just play flute, I was like, wow, this is different, because I'm playing an instrument and learning new skills every day.
Yeah.
And so when I first went to my first day of playing, my teacher was like, no, let's just make a sound. And then when I made a sound, he was like, that's the first step. And so that really kind of started a catalyst effect of I started music, but now I just want to continue it. Nice. And so as going to middle school and high school, when I told myself in high school, in ninth grade, I was like, I really do enjoy playing. I think this is what my love is. Nice. I was grateful enough to be able to study with a lot of great mentors.
We have Hazel here with us, and she's making sure you know that. So Hazel, they heard you, okay?
I enjoyed just learning and listening to different artists. I always listen to a lot of flute players, you know, incredible classical players, a lot of incredible jazz players, like John Coltrane, Miles Davis, because I was learning and branching myself in different avenues of music.
Okay.
And so after I finished high school, I went to Penn State for my undergraduate, and that's where I continued to do music. I did a lot of music. I also branched into photography, and I also branched, you know, just in more groups where we did, like, you know, different like jazz combos, which is basically when you make a group of, you know, like different instruments like flute, saxophone, bass, piano, and we would just play different events, different gigs. It was awesome. It was surreal. It was a surreal moment.
So you do have an interest in photography as well.
Yes.
So what brought that up?
I think.
Well, how did you pick that up? Photography, because it's two different type of arts.
Exactly.
Coming from music, and you play saxophone. You play now your focus is on the flute, and then now photography.
Yeah.
Is your mom's influence, African influence, any of those two arts that you chose?
Well, that was also a reason why I did photography too, because I was, you know, I used to do a lot of research when I was listening to music, but I was also watching art or looking at artworks, and I would see, like, you know, also see different photographers taking pictures of different landscapes or different areas. And so I would always see pictures of like Nigeria, and especially Lagos. I would see pictures of Africa, and there's just a different people there in a photographic sense.
Okay.
And so when I was growing, you know, I was growing and like wanting to understand, like, man, like I really do enjoy taking pictures. I learned how much my influence was to be able to connect what I see in the human eye and connecting that to a picture that I take and show to people. So like whatever I see and how I feel about a certain picture or a certain area, like that's what I want to be able to display when I take it in the camera, the camera sense. And so that's what really built my interest, you know. And so now, like, I take pictures for musicians, for different groups of people, but I also take pictures of areas because, like, this is memories,
nature.
You know, it's nature. It's
and when you go to Nigeria in December,
I'm doing the same thing.
Wow.
You know?
You're going to have such a beautiful experience and apply your arts there as well.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So where do you see as an emerging leader graduating in a few days in from Cincinnati, Ohio?
Yeah.
And that's the University of Cincinnati, right?
Yes.
And so where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because I know you have the interest in art, photography, and from your music. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, I really want to be a kind of like a versatile artist in everything I do. You know, I want to be able to perform soloistically, to perform in different ensembles.
Nice.
As you know, I'm continuing my career, but I also want to be able to you know, with photography, with helping others, like, you know, define their creativity, define their imagery. Because, you know, many people, I feel, don't really understand, like, the wealth of their character until they, you know, they're able to see themselves shine through. Because, you know, many people, you know, they want to make websites, they want to make all these things and show people who they are. And so I want to be able to support that and be able to elongate their process of showing others that, like, this is my creativity, this is my resume, this is what I do. And so in 5 years, you know, I would love to be able to play in those big ensembles, be able to just play soloistically, but also just telling people, hey, like, this is my love. Like, I love photography as well. Like, I love seeing people being brought up the way that they want to be, you know, showcasing themselves.
Do you see yourself traveling with your career as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so what would we're going to segue to Africa. I know you haven't been unless, except when you were little and you don't remember much, but you're going very soon, and your mom is from Nigeria. So you definitely have a lot more knowledge about it than I do. What would you like for people to know about Nigeria and Nigerians as well? Because you are half Nigerian as well.
I think I would love people to understand Nigeria has such a rich tradition. It has such a rich culture to how people carry themselves and how they carry each other. You know, as we see, like you know, media, I guess, tries to show, like, how, like, maybe Africa doesn't have, like, these resources, but I don't believe that's true. You know, Africa,
they say the same about Haiti. Exactly. We have a lot of natural resources that are not published to the world.
Exactly.
And there is a lot of riches in the country, although we are going through a terrible time right now, specifically in Port-au-Prince, the capital. So I definitely can understand that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think with scrapping the way the media and things saying like just a full lens, there's people like there's many people thriving. Like we have artists, we have like Burna Boy, who's from Nigeria. We have.
I think is that the guy that just made? There is a Haitian who has a song. Oh la la! His name is Duet Filet, and I love the song. I think he plays it. He was at a concert and he invited the Haitian guy.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he did.
It was like wow. It's like Nigeria meeting Haiti.
Yeah, but it's
That's
like
nice.
that cultural connection. But like, as I was saying, like Nigeria, like those artists you have like sculptors, you have doctors. My uncle is a full-time doctor. He learned everything in Nigeria, and so he moved into US and he just made his own office and has been thriving since then.
Nice.
Like the schooling, you have many bright young people, young humans who are in Nigeria who are learning, as I said before, they're learning the culture of family, tradition, community, and being able to show in like putting themselves in the best position possible. I think the one thing with Nigerians, like they're very go for everything you can.
So
do.
they're very driven.
They're
so
very
that's
driven.
the family dynamic. When you have a child, the family really pushes the kid to become more and more as they get older. Like very ambitious. It sounds like
very ambitious.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the case. That's been the case with my family. Like we. Especially with my mom, and my aunts who raised us, like they just drove us to be able to just be the best we can. And we have so many different people in our family who do different things. We have 2 doctors, we have a dentist, we have one in communications, we have an accountant, 2 engineers, and then me the only musician. But it's still different like branches of perspectives.
Yeah.
But that comes from that inner cultural side of my family. And especially in Nigeria, and especially I was going back to what I was saying with religion. That also was what really connected us the most.
So you have a strong faith.
So strong faith, and all of us have a lot of strong faith because we grew up in that. And especially as you were going in your career, and there's things that may not go the best way. You always connect back to that stronghold.
Nice. And what language, what words, what can you tell me? I know you told me hello. Now we're going to conclude very soon. So how would you say goodbye? How would you say thank you in your language?
So,
I don't know how much you speak of the language since you were brought up here, because my children were brought up here and they don't know much about Creole, which is my mistake, and I wish I had done differently. But they can still learn it if they want to. But I did teach them French when they were little, because I wanted them to learn the French first. But once they got to school, they dropped it, and I did not force them to do that. I did not force them to learn the language. I wish I had insisted, not necessarily forcing them, but insisted. I did not. So, what words do you? No, well, you don't speak Nigerian.
I don't really speak Yoruba like as much as I want to, but I'm like.
So your language is called Yobo.
Yoruba. So Yoruba. So Yoruba.
I'm learning a lot, as you can tell. This is an impromptu conversation, and it was perfect timing, as God would want it always. And I want to say thank you. How would I say that?
Of course. If you say thank you in Yoruba, you would say Oshe.
Oshe?
Yeah, Oshe. And then I would say Kodo.
Spell it for me, because I need to know how something is spelled for me to pronounce it better.
Of course. So it would be like OSHE, like Oshe.
Oshe.
Yes.
That's
Oshe.
Thank you.
Yes, that's thank you.
Okay.
And then if I say you're welcome, and I would say Korope, which is your
Korope. I got this right.
Exactly.
Korope. Okay, I'm learning.
And that's how you say you're welcome in Yoruba.
That's nice. That's nice. So we're going to conclude what message also, because this is about our ancestors coming from Africa to us becoming Creole, those of us who were dropped in different places.
Yes.
And what would you say, what message would you have about that as well?
Yeah, I think there's, as we were saying before, there's so many riches especially from when our ancestors had split and went to these different countries, all the countries that we have, like they all connect together. Culturally, they all come from the same homeland, and they all will contain these same ideologies of community, of family, of tradition. And I'm a firm believer of that. Especially with Nigeria. I believe Nigeria is a staple of what real foundation is. Real love, love for one another, loving your family, loving even strangers. Just being as respectful as you can, because that's what we grew up on.
Nice.
And even continue on to the different cultures in Haiti, in different parts of Africa. We stand by our same identity. We want to carry that identity wherever we go, because we don't never want it to leave, because that's not us.
Yes, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And about language, Nigeria speak English and what else?
So they speak English, Yoruba, Igbo, and they also speak. There's some French in there too. There's some French that's.
Some people who speaks French.
Yeah, there's some of them who speak French in Nigeria.
Okay.
There's some that you wouldn't expect. But you're like, because as the colonizers, they went to the countries. Some people had divided in different languages.
Yes, that's beautiful. Well, today you listened to Joshua's story. Joshua's mom is from Nigeria, and it was a great opportunity to introduce Joshua and a little bit of Nigeria. He's going to Nigeria in December, and perhaps we can have that conversation via Zoom next time.
Yeah,
or if you come visit us as well, that would be beautiful. And I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I already forgot. Oshe.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's awesome.
Not too bad, huh? Oshe. And it was a pleasure, and it was a pleasure having you as a guest as well.
Thank you.
And I'm happy I got to speak with your mom on FaceTime, and she did a fantastic job with you. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Of course. My pleasure.
Okay. On that note, as you know, I always conclude with this. Love for all, love for Haiti, love for our country, and love for the world, and peace. Thank you.
Thank you, of course.